hear, James, because you laughed as soon as it was drawn. But Manchester City against Bayern Munich, and then you got to beat Real Madrid or Chelsea in the semis.
It sort of feels like this perfect. I mean, let's be honest, it's probably Real Madrid, isn't it? It feels like this perfect set of circumstances to like prey on all of City's mental insecurities. I think they have the best squad there, but like it's going back to what Nigel said. There is something about the Champions League that until you win it, and I guess maybe you guys can tell me about this from other competitions as well. Like if you're not in that trophy-winning dressing room, I don't know why it's different for the Champions League, except that there clearly is something, isn't there? When you concede 2 goals in the last 10 seconds or whatever it was against Madrid, when you just go mad against Lyon, there's something about this City team and the Champions League that feels like nothing's ever quite going to break their way, or they'll always find a way to make it harder for themselves. And this time the draw has found a way to make it so much harder. I still think like if you took everything out of it, all the mental issues, all that, I think City could beat both those teams, and I'd make them favourites going into ties against any one of the other 3. But I don't fancy them mentally to do it, and that's so strange to say because they're clearly a strong team.
I've got a few opinions on that. I don't know if we've got time, but I've got a few things that kind of tinker my brain when it comes to that situation. We got time, or we got to go break?
No, go right now.
No, it's just a quick one, James. I think the thing when I look at City for me is, again, they've never won it. Their priority for fans when all this money coming was winning the Premier League title. They've won the Premier League title now a few times. So now they've got bored. So now from the old girlfriend that they've got, they want to get a new girlfriend, upgrade their girlfriend. The Champions League is the golden goose. That is the reality of it. And I think it's because of what the Champions League has become with the money and the marketing and everything that's come behind it and the history of all the clubs and how it's growing to be one of the most powerful footballing competitions in the world next to the World Cup, really and truly. People care more about the Champions League than the World Club competition. But I think one of the hardest things you've got is because of Manchester City being in the Premier League, winning the Premier League with what comes with the Premier League, it's the motivation factor of it. I think that a lot of these players at City are basically full up, and it's hard to motivate these players to really want to win the Champions League with all the luxuries that they have at Manchester City. So I think the club has a part to play with it. When you compare it to other European clubs, they're not living the luxury lifestyle of the 1% of that Premier League club of Manchester City. So these players are a lot more motivated, in my opinion, to want to win the Champions League than you can ever get Manchester City. Manchester City still is a new project, whichever way we look at it. Like some people don't even know that Manchester City's been through all the different divisions in English football. And this whole Premier League thing is new money, and they're still finding their feet. They're starting the foundations to implement an institution like Real Madrid, but that's a long way away. So I think for me, it's kind of more so the motivation factor plays a big part, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. James, anything else?
I wholeheartedly agree entirely. I think there is, it is not about the quality of the players. No. That is a squad that, in talent terms, could have done what Real Madrid did in the 2010s, could have done what Ajax, Bayern Munich, they could be, and they have been like the best team in Europe in terms of overall performance, in terms of consistently getting to the Champions League latter stages over the last 5 years. But it doesn't actually really matter for all that much if you don't win the title, does it?
No.
And there is, I think, almost every year, we say the same things about PSG. It's almost like every single year, the weight of it becomes just a bit too heavy for them. So it's hard to see this being the year,
James,
which probably means it will be.
Just one more thing I want to add to that as well, right? And we talk about the Premier League and all these different leagues. The reality of it is, the Premier League is seen with such envy from other leagues in Europe. They do not like the Premier League. They hate Premier League clubs' arrogance, which is fine. I've got no problem with that. And the only point I want to make to that is, you look at the great game we saw yesterday with Arsenal and Sporting. Did you see how the Sporting players celebrated after that, and the fans, of what it meant to beat a Premier League team like Arsenal? Like, it is more than just a game when some of these big European sides play Premier League sides. It's a kind of a statement of yes, you guys are the best marketed league in the world, but you're not the best league in the world. We can compete with you. We've got more hungry players and more desire. The celebrations alone lets you know how much intensity is put when these sides play English teams.
What it means to them. Yeah,
what
it
it
really
means
is
to them.
incredible.
And
What it
that's what I'm
means.
saying.
Also, Oscar jumped in with a comment backing you up there, Nigel. He said, finally, it's a perfect draw that helps out the little guys, even if they just become, sacrificial lambs in the final. I mean, I don't want that, and I don't necessarily agree with that, because I can't imagine, if you think what could happen in this run now, you could possibly see Napoli beat Milan. You could see Benfica beat Inter, right? I'm just putting it out there. Benfica-Napoli would be a hell of a semi-final. Could you imagine watching that? I mean, nothing against Inter or Milan, but that would probably be the semi-final that I would like to watch most on that side there. And then I wouldn't fancy going up against either Napoli or Benfica in the final, because you're automatically a favorite going into that final.
90 minutes.
90 minutes. That's it.
90 minutes with them two? Nah, you want
2 legs.
Yeah.
2 legs you give.
All right.
You think your quality pays off, but 90 minutes, the emotion of that, nah.